Happy Wednesday, and welcome to another edition of Husker Online Headlines. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, as we get you ready for this Thanksgiving holiday. There are a lot of great days in the year, but the Wednesday before Thanksgiving is right up there for a lot of people.
Wow, why do you say that? A lot of people do like that.
Just because a lot of people somehow don't have to work Friday, so it's the start of a great 4-day weekend to see family, friends, football, eat.
Speak for yourself on that. But I'm joking. I never really thought of it that way. I've just been just frantically trying to get stuff done.
Well, yeah, getting stuff done, and we'll get in that later. I mean, it's been like the hardest thing about our job is you have to get a week's worth of work done in about 2 days. And we've managed to do it, but
you do.
We are going to, hopefully you're driving off somewhere to go see those in-laws, to go see those cousins.
Yeah.
And crazy brothers and sisters, and you're listening to our show on the way, and we're going to give you some comic relief as we get you ready for Nebraska versus Iowa on Friday.
Game, Sean.
It's a serious game, yeah. But we got to show headline number one. Let's start it off here with Husker on the headlines as we go through 5 headlines heading into the week. Dana Holgorsen prepares for act number 3 as Nebraska's offensive coordinator. Act 1 had some things to get worked out. Act 2 was about as good as you could have drawn up. Can it continue now in Iowa City with cold weather, a better supposed defense? Now, Iowa's defense has shown they're human at times, though. Go look at their Michigan State game and look at some of the other games they played this year. They have given up more yardage in some games than they have in previous years. So there's a lot about this game that intrigues you, but Dana Holgorsen and this offense now against Iowa is definitely our number one headline.
Well, I mean, I'd start it off this way. There have been few stories for me that have been this interesting in covering Nebraska football in the last quarter century. Just few stories that are this interesting. There he is. This is a household. I'm Sean. This is a household name in college football. Standing there as Nebraska's play caller, hired November 11th in a unique set of circumstances led to this largely an NCAA rules change that would allow this to happen for the first time, for the first season ever. Rule takes advantage of it. Matt Rule takes advantage of it. And here he is. It's still kind of hard to – it almost seems surreal to me that we're having these press conferences with Dana Holgorsen. And he's – and yeah, Act 3, Act 1, some of the guys didn't know their lines perfectly, right?
He just stepped in and said, "Get out of the way, guys. I got the wheel."
Well, and that's partially, Sean, what makes this so intriguing. He didn't know what he was getting into. He made that clear yesterday. He had a 16-minute session with the media yesterday. And once again, like the first session, it was really interesting. And the point that I would drive home is, Sean, when he got here, he didn't know he was going to be calling plays. He didn't know he was going to take over the offense. It just sort of began to evolve that way. And he talks about the first meeting he had with the staff, and all the guys were looking at him like, "What are you doing here?"
Well, it is odd. I mean, there's no, and Troy Dannon said that. He goes, nobody I know in the industry can have a comparable data point where somebody from outside the building. Now, in 2022, Bill Bush took over for Eric Chenander, and he was not a defensive coach. He was special teams coordinator.
True.
And so he was not
in the building.
He was not a part of the defensive meetings at that point.
No.
But and he changed the scheme.
He did.
They're running the same scheme. It's the same ingredients necessary, but he's just kind of mixed up the menu and how they do it and how they're rolling it out there.
Well, the big thing is he simplified. He talked yesterday, Sean, about they had a huge playbook.
Look at that play sheet. Look how many plays are on that play sheet.
Well, but he has simplified it enormously. For instance, he said one thing that he's done, a good for instance, is before all the receivers had to learn all the receiver positions. And he said, why do they all have to learn all the receiver positions? Just have them learn one, and I'll do the thinking. Let me do the thinking. They do the playing. So he has, and he said, I'll listen. He's really funny the way he says stuff. He said, I'll listen to the guys' ideas. These guys are, they've been around a long time. Satterfield, Glenn Thomas, late 40s. Donnie Raiola, he was with the Chicago Bears, has a lot of experience. Obviously, Rule has a lot of experience. He says, I'll listen to their ideas, but I'll tell them, I'm not going to use everything, because if it doesn't make sense to me, it's not going to make sense to the players.
Yeah, it was almost like he's hinting that they had kind of too much going on.
Oh, I don't even know that he was hinting. I mean, it just pretty much.
And then one thing he said I thought that was interesting is he was confused why so many of the receivers and players are playing multiple different positions.
Right. That's what I was just saying, Sean.
And it just guys get confused and you lose sight of your role.
Mm-hmm.
This version of Dana Holgorsen, I didn't know the old version, but I had a picture. I thought he was a little bit more like, I feel like this is a more matured, measured version of Dana Holgorsen.
Well,
but yeah, we don't see him behind the scenes. But
no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying I figured he was mature. He's been a head coach for 13 years. I mean, I don't know. I didn't have that. I didn't know what to. I had never really seen him interviewed. I saw him on sidelines, and I didn't know what to think. I will tell you this: I've been extraordinarily impressed. Like,
his approach in the state of Nebraska with the people fits really well.
I think it does because he's plain spoken and blunt.
Yeah, and he's kind of like a guy you'd see like at like a small town gas station, just like not dolled up and just. I mean, he is who he is. He's not gonna sugarcoat things.
No, but I think he's brilliant.
Exactly. No,
I think he's brilliant. He was a coordinator 6 seasons, and all those seasons he had top 10 offenses, top 10. Again, good enough to be hired as a head coach at 2 major institutions. That tells you a lot right there. And then, Sean, what you saw, just don't overthink it. How much better did it look to you in those 2 games, particularly the Wisconsin game?
The flow, the operation.
Yeah.
And Prince and I talked, we're going to be joined later in the show actually by former Husker Prince Amukamara, but we talked about the window dressing, and he said he referred to that as mental gymnastics.
So Prince watches the game.
Yeah, and as a defender, when there's more things going on, it's mental gymnastics on your mind on what you're trying to watch and flow. Another thing with Dana this week, I'm really fascinated, is coming back to Iowa. He grew up right outside Iowa City. He even slipped in there that he grew up an Iowa fan.
Yeah, did you see his response? That was pretty funny, actually. He goes, doesn't mean anything to me. He goes, I'm not. He goes, I don't know what to say. It just doesn't mean anything to me. That's an example of his bluntness. But I guess I just don't want it to get lost what he did in this game. Nebraska scored 44 points against Wisconsin. That's the most points they've scored since scoring 56 against Northwestern in, was that 2021?
2021, Scott Frost.
56 points. This is the most Nebraska scored. And he comes in, Sean, not even knowing he's going to be the play caller. And in game 2, he has him scoring 44 against Wisconsin.
And this is, and the thing about Wisconsin, this is not a paper tiger defense. I mean, this is a defense that has proud tradition and history.
Yeah.
And they only gave up 16 points to Oregon
the week before.
So, I mean, you can try to like throw cold water, but you can't. I mean,
not really.
They went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They went 6 drives in a row with a touchdown or a field goal. Think about that.
Oh, I've thought about it. And the other thing to think about, Sean, is, you hear this, you got to think about this stuff. You hear, we've talked about this stuff many times over the years. Sip, Sean. It's not the X's and O's, it's the Jimmies and Joes. It is to a certain extent, but you see with Holgorsen how much coaching matters.
The X's and O's are what make the Jimmies and Joes perform their best.
Yeah, exactly.
There's not a lot of separation in some regards of the talent on some of these Big Ten teams.
Coaching matters.
But the how you use them.
Yeah, the coaching.
All right. Anything else you want to add on Holgorsen?
That's it, Sean.
Let's take it before we go to headline number 2. HuskerOnline headlines brought to you by Ellerbrock-Norris. They've been helping Nebraska business owners protect their purpose for over 120 years with risk management solutions built for local businesses. Ellerbrock-Norris partners with you on commercial insurance, group benefits, business exit planning, safety, and more. Start thinking long-term with your business and create a risk management strategy to protect it. Are your employee benefit costs going through the roof? Talk to Ellerbrock. Are workplace injuries skyrocketing your workers' compensation costs? Talk to Ellerbrock. Hoping to retire in the next 10 years and sell the business to family, key employees, or a friendly competitor? Talk to Ellerbrock. Ellerbrock-Norris is helping you protect your purpose, whether it's your business and the employees in it, your life outside of work, or your future retirement goals. Head to ellerbrock-norris.com/HuskerOnline today to get your free risk evaluation. Thanks to Ellerbrock-Norris for sponsoring us here on Husker Online Headlines. All right, headline number two, Nebraska's defense has a pretty clear-cut objective in Iowa City this week, and we know what that is. It's slow down this Iowa Hawkeye running game led by Caleb Johnson, arguably the Big Ten running back of the year right now and a first-team All-American.
Yes, Sean, it's a pretty extreme sort of conversation in that Iowa's rushing offense is 13th nationally and their passing offense is 128th. So it's extreme, and it often is with Iowa. 13th nationally on the ground, 128th nationally through the air. They have a walk-on quarterback who I believe you've told me was
Jackson Stratton,
who at one point was a fifth-string quarterback. He's a linebacker
too.
Yeah, he's a walk-on. He's a transfer from Colorado State. Now, I watched him. His arm strength isn't bad. They didn't have him throw down the middle of the field, though, Sean. They had him. He threw, toward the sideline most of the time, a little safer. I think you're right, and I agree with the headline. There's a part of me that wonders, are they going to come out throwing a little bit more than we think? Is it possible?
I don't see it with Jackson Stratton. I mean, you're talking about a guy that was playing linebacker. And
I'm telling you, his arm's not that bad. Sean.
Okay, he didn't complete a pass of 20 yards or more. He had a couple intermediate routes, but you're looking at a game where he's going to throw it between 10 and 15 times.
You're right.
I mean, so what do you do? I mean, the throws are going to be in obvious throw situations or bootlegs and rollouts. I mean, you're going to see him roll it out and just kind of sidearm dump it out to somebody, and it'll be a safe throw.
The other part of the conversation is they don't really have much to throw to. They don't.
One of their top receivers,
Reese Vanderzee, is out.
And then one of their top DBs on it. They've had a couple. I mean, there's a lot in this thing that favors Nebraska that when you look at it.
Yeah, you're talking about Reese Vanderzee, who's their fourth leading receiver. He's out. Jacob Gill is their best receiver, very ordinary receiver. He's got 31 catches for 365 yards. What you notice about their top pass receivers is nobody has a yards per catch over 13.9. And that's a backup tight end who has only 9 catches, who has a 13.9 yards per catch average. They just don't even have much to throw to. So it boils down to our headline. It's all about the running back. The running back, by the way, Sean, he's rushed for 1,492 yards, 6.7 a carry. The other thing I would tell you, and I've seen Iowa play, one issue is their backup's pretty good. Kamari Moulton, he's averaging 5.7 a carry. I mean, and they're going to run, what they're going to do? They're going to run outside zone, and that's how they beat you, and they cut them up. It stresses your gaps a lot.
And early on, I think Nebraska will look good, but can they do it for 4 quarters?
That's it.
Because we've seen it where you're like, oh, man, they're winning up front. But then Iowa just kind of bores you. And then they'll pop them. They start popping them. And, last year they popped a big run to set up the game-winning field goal.
They're so patient. So you kind of got to be patient too, as a defense. You got to be patient. And Caleb, now, UCLA shut him down, like under 50 yards shut him down. Now he got going against Maryland last week. That's a bad Maryland team. Wouldn't you say, statistically, Nebraska's strength is defending the run, right? So that helps matters. We know what we're getting into here, but Nebraska, they shut down Ohio State, but couldn't shut down Woody Marks.
I think the teams are different though. Like I think what USC did with their screen game and Maeva's mobility, like I personally thought Maeva was a better quarterback than Will Howard.
Oh, really?
I do. If I were like scoring him and taking a prospect, I'd take Maeva over Will Howard.
Over the Ohio State quarterback.
Yes. But Nebraska shut down the screen game and the design. Gosh, I couldn't say that word. That USC ran I think it gave Nebraska a lot of problems on the perimeter. And Nebraska's weakness in the defense right now is the secondary. And in this type of game, they're not going to be really in coverage. It's going to be a tackling game. It's where Deshaun Singleton and Gifford and these guys are going to have big games.
Yeah, in the front six, front seven, it just plays. God dang, Sean, I rewatched Wisconsin, Nebraska last night. Oof, number 9 for Nebraska is playing well right now.
Deshaun Singleton.
Or no, I meant Ty Robinson. Whatever
Robinson.
number.
Number 8, number 9. I get the single digits. But hey, speaking of secondary, we have a former Husker great joining us here on the show. Headline right number 3. Let's welcome in former Husker Prince Amukamara, the last first-round draft pick, Steve, of Nebraska football.
Wow.
Prince joining us, 10-plus year career in the NFL, Prince. Thanks for coming on. I know it's holiday week here, but you follow this team still pretty closely, right?
100%. I first wanted to, give my original response, salutations, Husker Nation. And no, I appreciate you guys for having me on. I was in like the waiting room, but I like the content you guys were talking about.
Oh, thank you, Prince. It's great to see you. It's great to see you again.
Now, when you watch Nebraska's defense, Prince, particularly the secondary, what are you seeing right now with the 3-3-5 and some of the things they're doing? And did you know you were in the league a long time? John Butler was in the league. Did you ever cross paths with John Butler? Do you know much about John Butler?
I don't, and I have not crossed paths with them a lot. But I still feel like as a secondary, we're physical. And I mean we're getting after the ball, and so with those recipes, I mean, I think in the beginning people say we haven't played anybody, but in the beginning, I mean, I think our rushing defense, and I mean our rushing defense is still awesome. I mean, we haven't given up a rushing touchdown
at home.
Mm-hmm. Like that's impressive, and I always compare it to the defensive I was a part of and the defensive front we've had. And so, I mean, that says a lot about them. Obviously, no defense is perfect, and giving up that amount of points to Indiana doesn't look good. But at the end of the day, I still think the numbers don't lie about our identity as a defense.
Prince, everybody, we talk a lot about number 15 on offense for Nebraska a lot. But how about 15 on defense, the corner Sierra Wright, who's a transfer from USC, but he burst onto the scene and now is arguably their best corner. What has made an impression on you from number 15?
Yeah, I mean, I first saw him the USC game. I think that was his kind of coming out party. Yeah, getting that pick 6 against his former squad. And the thing is with getting the ball, it does a lot of things, but one of the things it does is it gives amnesia. So if you make a bad play or someone has a perception of who you are that's not good, you get the ball and you score, it kind of gives that person amnesia, and all of a sudden you're great again. And I feel like that's whatever the perception of was about him before, I think he's knocking that out of the park by getting his hands on the ball.
Prince, do you ever think about you're the last first-round draft pick at Nebraska? I mean, do people bring that up to you ever?
Yeah, a couple of friends who follow closely, and I mean, and that's tough. Just because there's been a lot of great guys. I mean, I still to this day would say Alfonso Denard was probably a better corner than me, in a sense of just because he got the ball so many times, super athletic, and yeah, so I would always play off of him. But you've had guys like Levante David. I mean, you see what he's doing now, his longevity in the league and what he's doing. And so he's someone I feel like who could have been a first rounder, obviously was second round. But I mean, and look at Cameron Taylor-Britt. So a lot of guys that are being missed, but are still showing a lot of promise at the next level.
Hey, Prince, some people probably have sort of forgotten about the defenses you've played on. Give the people, including myself, a refresher course. Who are you playing with in the secondary when it was really rolling at Nebraska? Who are the guys you were back there with?
Gotcha. So, I mean, so that guy right there, Eric Haig for sure. Alfonso Denard, Dejon Gomes, Anthony West, and then our safeties like Austin Cassidy, Matt O'Hanlon. And so like we had so many, and Larry Asante, like we had so many guys that were so interchangeable and could play different parts. Like Eric Haig and DeJon Gomes were like Swiss Army knives, and those guys could play so many positions. They could put us in the right spots. And so when you have Coach Carl Pelini was licking his chops because there's so much he can do with that. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think Matt Hanlon, did he have 3 picks in one game?
Against Oklahoma.
Against Oklahoma. So just think, and was that the same game I had a pick?
I believe so.
Okay. I'm not trying to give myself.
I had to mention that one.
I'm just trying to jog my memory.
That was 13-7, I think, or it was a low-scoring game.
Game. Yeah, and so that's what I'm saying. So guys like that making plays and stuff, and then obviously like Sue, Jared Crick, Pierre Allen, Steinkühler, like all these guys like really helped us. I mean, Will Compton, obviously, and Levante David. We were just so well-rounded.
You know, Sipple does a show with your former recruiter Bill Bush. Did you know he's
my God,
Sipple out here?
I've seen him. He's gaining a huge social media presence. I've seen him on there a lot. But he's talk about a recruiter, man. To get 5 guys from Arizona, and to just like he talks so good. Not saying that he sold me a dream, but he has this warm, welcoming, like accommodating, and was definitely one of the reasons, a big reason as to why I came to Nebraska, and I'm forever thankful to him.
Do you ever think about just if you would have played in the Big Ten, but at the same point, when you guys played in the Big 12, the Big 12 was regarded, in my opinion, as a better league than the Big Ten.
Yes, I mean, the Texas, Missouri, me and Chase Daniels still talk about when they were rolling and them having Macklin and Chase Kaufman and all those guys, and then Des Bryant down in Okie State with Russell Okun, and then Texas, and like going up against Colt McCoy, and like, yes, that conference was stacked for sure.
Well, Prince, I wanted to also talk to you here because we're both working with a company called Future Fans, and I've got the stuff, the books, you got it. And what the product is.
Oh, there it is.
It's to help show and explain to young people, children, the game of football, because it is hard. I have daughters that are 8 and 11, but we take for granted we know football really well. But to teach them about the game, it's a great book and program. It would be a great Christmas present, even to get your kid or grandkid. And there's games and activities and tons of fun things to kind of teach your kids more about the game of football.
Yes, no, you're exactly right. Future Fans has been great for my family. I mean, I have 5 kids now, and my daughter loves the sport of football, and so does my son. And so one thing I enjoy about it is it kind of just makes it very, very simple. So I remember I'd ask my son like just simple questions, or I would go outside and play with them, like run this route. And I'm assuming that he knows these routes, but he doesn't. So for example, say like just the downing system, right? First, second, third, and fourth down. Future Fans has like a beanball toss to where, hey, if you toss it in, if you toss it in this bag, it's this down, and then so on and so forth. And then at the end, you get 6 points. So it talks about like conversion and all that. So it's been very fun for my family. And they also have a soccer one also, which we're gonna get next and try to teach them the soccer game also.
Prince, do you ever talk to kids about playing in cold weather?
No, but I have some basketball buddies who I know that argument's been circulating about, if basketball players can play football and football players can play basketball. And so, dude, the weather conditions is huge. I mean, I don't think I've ever been in a game that Jameis Winston and the Browns and those guys played in, but I remember, I forgot what year it was, but we played against Kansas, the Jayhawks at night.
Yeah.
And that was the coldest game I've ever been to. Yes. And it was too cold to snow. That's how cold it was. And I remember I had no sleeves or anything. And I remember Coach Pelini, what we would do is we only had the one indoor in the sports complex. So he would have offense practice indoor, and then the defense we're outside and we're just bearing the cold. And so by the time we got to the game, it wasn't that bad. And then obviously it helped me in the league going to New York after, and then I was able to play in anything. So and to me, the trick is, as long as you have like your ears covered, your fingers and your toes pretty much warm, I think everything else can just freeze and take care of itself and stuff like that.
That's pro. That's a pro right there.
Prince, you come back to a lot of games, correct?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I've since being done, it's been awesome just being a fan. I don't want to get too close and too invested because I don't want it to have a chance to ruin my day. Not saying that they are going to, but I don't want the game to have a chance to ruin my day. And so but yeah, pay close attention and try to come back whenever I can. The love in Nebraska has always been great, and sometimes it's crazy. The love that I get kind of sometimes tells me that like I just graduated last year. Like God, they still remember me. But then after thinking about it, I mean, that's like 15 years ago, and so it can be flattering sometimes.
Reminder, how big were you when you played? What was your height and weight as a player, as a corner?
I was 6 foot 205.
Big corner.
But you were extremely like your vertical. What was your vertical in 40 in its prime?
Yes, 30 and a half, and then ran 4.37.
I mean, just a specimen. And I remember they toyed around when you got here to maybe be an offensive player too, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I was supposed to play offense in the Callahan era, and then it's so funny. I think they had me listed as athlete. I think they wanted me to be a DB, but they just try to put me back there to kind of, whatever, to make sure I wouldn't transfer, which was very hard back then. And so I remember I was in the backfield. I ran into, I think maybe it was Keith Williams' back. I ran to his back as soon as I got the handoff, and I was never in the backfield again. So I stayed on.
You ran into his back.
Yeah, I stayed on defense after that, and then Coach Pliny came in next year, and I said, "Hey, I was promised to play offense. Can I play there?" And he said, "You know what? I've coached a lot of DBs, and from what I see in you, I think you could play a long time if you stick it out." And so he could have been blowing smoke, but I was like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna trust him, and it worked out.
Yeah, it worked.
Tell us about that books thing again, a little bit more. Just what's the deal with the book?
Future fans.
Again,
like where would you recommend people ordering it online, or how can they get Future Fans?
Yes, they can for sure order it online, futurefans.com. And right now they're having a 25% off cyber sale to Monday. So yeah, for sure, hop on it.
It'd be a great like Christmas gift for your children, your kids, your nieces or nephews.
Yes, it explains the game.
I might get one for Sipple so he can get a better understanding of the game.
Sort of come to understand the game, Prince.
Right. No, exactly.
We could play the games together and I could teach you.
Prince, what do you tell people when they ask you? I always battle this question. When people say, is it a complicated game or is it an easy game, football?
Gosh. I think it could be both. I think it could be both, because obviously once you get it, it's easy, right? I hear a lot of coaches say, "Hey, football's simple. The person who stays the lowest man always wins, and it's about blocking and tackling."
Yeah.
Right. But then you get into, okay, are we winning the turnover battle? How many first downs are we getting? Are we scoring a lot of points? Are we stopping them from scoring points and stuff like that? So it could be both, but then once you do understand it, it's just fun, because when you truly understand the meaning of every inch really counts. Like every yard counts. I mean, you don't get that inch and you don't convert the downs. Now it's going the other way and you have to start all over again, and you might lose a game on that.
I got two quick ones for you. What was your favorite game in college, and who's the best receiver you've ever gone against?
In college, God, best receiver is easy. Justin Blackman. I mean, he gave me nightmares after that game. We won, but he had I think he had over 100 yards on me in the first half, and then
Oklahoma State.
Yes, yeah, and then the second half, shut him out. We won the game, but I remember I was so consumed with like my draft stock, and so I was really looking at that every game. I forgot what side it was, and so I remember after I played him, my stock was going down. I saw it on the side, and so yeah, he was tough. He was tough, and then best game is tough because there's just a lot of memories. I mean, I remember, was it Baylor game where Sue almost took the guy's head off?
Yeah, at Baylor,
yeah, and
yeah,
so
at
stuff
Waco.
like that. Mm-hmm. Alex Henry's kick, Colorado, like that. I think that was the loudest I've seen. That was the loudest I've seen Husker Stadium until recent Colorado this year, and then yeah, I mean, and then obviously the Big 12 championship. I didn't know the magnitude of that game.
The Texas,
like what that game, yeah, the Texas game, yeah, and I give Colt McCoy, I give him crap about it. I said there was not 2 seconds left. He said, "Dude, check the clock. There was 2 seconds." And so, but that game was so big, and for us, and like for what we accomplished that year, and for us to be there, I appreciated that a lot.
These current Husker players are going to go on a bowl trip for the first time since 2016.
I'm excited, yeah.
What's your advice to these young kids getting to go on a bowl trip? How much fun did you have on bowl trips when you played?
Man, I mean, I went to a bowl game every year that Pelini was here. So Gator Bowl and then back-to-back Holiday Bowls. I mean, they're fun. I mean, you're treated nice. I don't know what much the bowls can give you now that you have. And I mean, we were excited for a PlayStation or an Xbox 360, and so. Now with these guys, you might have to up the bowl gifts a little bit more, but yeah, exactly, for sure. And so, but yeah, I mean, just relish the moment and just know at the end of the day, like you are there for business, and that's to win the game. But and definitely don't take it for granted because as you can see, like you said, it's been the first time in a long time. So I'm glad that we kind of got that monkey off our back.
Yeah.
You got anything else?
No, I think we're good.
Well, hey, Prince, we appreciate you joining us here on the holiday week, and excited to hear more about future fans. And thanks for dropping on the show. And hopefully we get to watch a win in Iowa City on Friday.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for having me. And then yeah, future fans, like you said, it's the best gift. I got mine off Amazon.
Okay.
And yeah, I love it.
Futurefans.com, and they have a Black Friday sale, 25% off. Check out their website right now. Promo code is Huskers. Again, at futurefans.com. Thanks again, Prince.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Great stuff. Thank you, Prince.
All right, let's before we move it on, man. What a great guy. Prince
what an ambassador for the book
and
for the book series. We call it book.
You
series.
Forget. I mean, he played here 15 years ago. Like
I know.
It's like, God, I'm not that old.
No, I know,
but I am.
he's. You can tell he's still young at heart. What a player. I mean, and it is sort of, I don't know, it's sort of embarrassing that Nebraska hasn't had a first round pick since 2011.
He made a good point. There are a lot of guys that deserve
close,
but I do think the struggles of the program have factored into that first round grade thing. I mean,
sure,
like,
for sure.
Okay, Wan'Dale Robinson was here, and he had that kind of ability. Left.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
Luke McCaffrey got drafted, left. I mean, there's been Cam Jurgens on a better team. If he's developed better, he might have been a first rounder.
Yeah, and you look at guys too. You got to have you kind of play a premium position too. That I mean, pass rushers are
Gregory. I mean, with all the skeletons in his.
He was going number one. He was going high first round. Then he got in trouble,
and he still got a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Amir Abdullah played the wrong position.
Yeah, that's not a premium position.
But yeah, it's
corners, pass rushers. I mean, those guys are premium quarterbacks, obviously. See, Nebraska's kind of was kind of out of the quarterback realm because they weren't running the kind of offense where you're gonna.
Well, I will say this: Adrian Martinez, after his true freshman year, people were thinking big with him.
Yeah,
his freshman year mirrored up with Mahomes, like right when Mahomes got going for the Chiefs, and people threw out some comparisons.
Sure,
Adrian at that time he was a Heisman front runner going into his sophomore year.
Yeah, that dissolved a little bit.
They put too much on his plate.
Yeah.
All right, before we take it in to headline number 4, HuskerOnline headlines brought to you by Bauer Underground. Bauer Underground serves as support for local contractors and utility companies within the state of Nebraska. They give 100% to assure quality control for their customers, and they have excellent management skills to supervise each and every job they contract for. The company and its employees are accustomed to deadline pressures on construction jobs and take tremendous pride in meeting the deadline requirements while maintaining excellent sportsmanship on each job. Strategy is at the heart of what they do. For more than 25 years, their reputation has been built on these basic principles, which include quality workmanship, on-time job completion, hiring and retaining high-quality personnel, utilizing the latest earth-moving techniques, and maintaining safety for their customers and employees. Learn more about them at BauerUnderground.com, about the work they do and the works they offer, or visit them or check them out. Their offices. They're in Lincoln, Omaha, Kearney, and Norfolk. Thanks again to Bauer Underground for sponsoring us here on Husker Online Headlines. Okay, headline 4. Let's get back into Iowa, Nebraska talk. The importance of beating another nemesis. Nebraska has a chance to beat Iowa and Wisconsin in the same year for the first time since 2012.
Huge. I mean, I just don't see any way you can diminish that.
2 trophies.
Right. Yeah. God.
2 trophies and a trip to Florida.
God, I'll tell you.
Oh, in a mounted buffalo, by the way, this year. You think about Colorado.
Yeah. Mounted buffalo. You threw me for a second there.
I mean,
oh my God.
You could bag a buffalo, a badger, and a Hawkeye and earn a trip to Tampa. Pretty good year.
That is that site. I told you, we were down on the field after the Wisconsin game. And one of the things I'll remember about that day, or maybe you know what, the main thing I'll remember about it is those players hoisting the Freedom Trophy. It made such an impression on me. It's like I felt so good for those players that they got the win, and then got the bull monkey off their back, blah blah blah. But then to see them actually hoisting that trophy was so meaningful, and they were jacked. They got a trophy. They could take that. They took that trophy into the locker room.
It looks heavy.
It's a big, good-looking, handsome trophy, and it was just beautiful to see Nebraska players, those vets, especially the veterans that have been through so much, get a chance to put their hands around a trophy. That's beautiful.
And I feel like now that we're in this Instagram, TikTok era, winning a trophy, you get a lot more access to seeing it. Because like all the guys do photos with it. I mean, back in the 2011, when you first joined the Big Ten, Nebraska did, that stuff wasn't as prevalent. But now, I can't tell you how many videos and pictures I've seen of players with the trophy.
Yeah, now they can go, now it's the Heroes Trophy, which they won it in 2022, and it was cool to see them. Remember, they grabbed it and ran around the field. Remember that?
Oh yeah, Casey Thompson.
Yeah, so they will do that again, I imagine, if they manage to beat Iowa. But yeah, those have been the nemesis. They ended Nebraska ended a 10-game skid against Wisconsin. Now, against Iowa, since joining the Big Ten, Iowa has a 9-4 record against Nebraska, but it's a nemesis. And see it, look at that. That's a big trophy. That, by the way.
The Huskers started out the series winning 3 of the first 4 Heroes trophies.
And then
Bo Pelini went 3-1. Then Eichhorst decided to open up his mouth, fire Pelini, and throw shade at his win on Iowa. And it just
at the end of the day,
I still had to measure where Iowa was at as a program.
That's what Eichhorst said, not what Sean Callahan said. And that's what Eichhorst said.
And Eichhorst upset Ferentz, and to the point where that actually motivated him to change his program. And what do? They beat Nebraska like 7 years in a row.
Right. So they became a nemesis. So, to get back-to-back wins.
7, because Frost only played 4 and Mike Riley played 3.
It was 8.
7.
Oh, 7. Okay, 7.
Yeah, 3 for Riley, 4 for Frost. Then Mickey Joseph got the win, which would have been Frost's 5th year. Was Frost here 6 or 5? I thought it was 5. Yeah. So Mickey Joseph coach would have been Frost's 5th Iowa game.
Okay. Iowa's won enough to become a nemesis. And you've talked about this. We've talked about it. Then if you beat Iowa, you're probably going to Tampa.
Yeah, Tampa. I mean, and I've read Scott Dockerman, another person in the Big Ten who covers Iowa, but really tuned in. His view on the bowl picture is exactly what we're saying right now. Obviously, the 4 playoff teams: Indiana, Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, Illinois to Capital One Bowl in Orlando, the Citrus Bowl.
All right.
And then the winner of this game to Tampa. And if Nebraska loses this game, they'd go to Nashville. Michigan is probably bound for the Pinstripe Bowl in New York City.
So you think it's pretty cut and dry?
That's what, and that there is not much separation. The bowls can view the 6 and 7 win teams as one of the same. There is no pecking order that Rutgers has got to go. It doesn't work that way. They're going to take the prettiest girl they want. You know,
Okay.
it's like they're all lined up and you pick the one you want.
Yeah, and Nebraska's pretty right now, but beating Iowa, I'm not going to do any strange analogies here. They'd get prettier, and that would be exciting. It'd be
There
really
would be
exciting. It'd be exciting.
Planes of people from Nebraska that go to Tampa.
Yeah.
Like full air, like several planes.
It'll be exciting.
I mean, there will be, because the date falls on the 31st.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives you some time to digest Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got that whole next week after Christmas before New Year's Day. And you're like, let's go to Tampa.
And the 31st would be good for the program too, because you would get a long
bowl month
of practices. You'd get a full 15, 16, 17.
There is no limit. Though.
There's no limit.
That's a misnomer. You just have to stay within the 20-hour rule each week, and you can have as many practices as you want.
You'd probably get 15 or so out of that, right?
At least, yeah. That they just would say that. I mean, but there is no rule. You can do 20. Like 1 year, you can do 25. 1 year, Michigan or Ohio State. It was Ohio State had 50 days between the Michigan-Ohio State game and then their national championship game. So they had 50 days of practices.
Do you know how valuable that is? Do you know how valuable that is?
I mean, 50 days, that's longer than a spring.
That is incredibly valuable in the sport of football, those reps. And Rule, I mean, I do have a lot of confidence in Matt Rule in that he would take full advantage of this. And I know he would. Just the way what he has said before and the way, just why am I saying that? Because of his overall approach, what we've seen for 2 years. It would be a very beneficial time for Nebraska. This is a big development.
And Dana Holgorsen brought up a great point. He goes, yeah, we'll actually we're going to actually be a part of these practices because we're not recruiting. This is the first December ever where coaches are not on the road ever.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the history of like modern day college football recruiting, the month of December has been this mad scramble around the country.
Yeah, we lived it.
And you're the coaches. It was the most stressful time of the year because you're
trying to win.
You're trying to get a bowl game. You're trying to practice.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to recruit. You're trying to keep your players here, and you're trying to add players from the transfer portal.
Yeah, even before the portal, it was stressful. I mean, I'm talking back when Nebraska was making bowls. It was stressful.
What I remember is they would always backload their practices at the end of the week, so the coaches could get back in town. So they would have like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, and you remember those practices too, where it was like a skeleton crew of coaches.
But you'd go over there on like a Friday night or Thursday night.
Yeah, Thursday night.
And they'd have practices, and that was the bowl practice. And I think we've gone over there on Saturdays during bowl month.
Sean, we're going to be covering bowl practices again. It's like I've forgotten kind of the whole thing.
I'm pretty excited. Yeah,
it is. It's the way it should be. We always talk about it. We talked about how you don't want it to be dark over there. They have that beautiful new facility. You don't want it to be vacant.
You don't want
December.
that Thanksgiving to Martin Luther King Day shutdown.
Right. And it would be largely shut down. Players leave.
They can do some lifting, and it's just not the same.
No,
though.
it's not the same.
When you're not playing for anything.
Right.
I mean,
100.
Basically, you're just going over to Planet Fitness to work out.
Right. And it's dark a lot of the time.
Like that's an exaggeration. I know they're doing more than that, but like you're not as motivated to work out in December.
Right.
And back to the bowl thing. Again, we talked about this on Tuesday or Monday.
Mm-hmm.
We will have a trip that we're working with a company, and we'll have information. So wherever they go, whether it's Tampa, Nashville, or somewhere else, but we will have a trip put together, more than likely with options to fly out of Omaha or Lincoln on direct flights to the game, hotel rooms, transportation, optional game tickets. If you need or want game tickets, you can get those. So that information, when we have it, we will get it out to you. They won't know their bowl site though till December 8th.
Right.
So we're gonna have a good idea after Friday, but we still won't know until after December 8th. Okay, let's close it. Headline 5, odds and ends. HuskerOnline Headlines is brought to you by Tavern 180, locations in both Lincoln and Omaha. They're at 30th and Yankee Hill Road in Omaha, 180th in Dodge. You are not going to get a better meal, a better steak than at Tavern 180, and you're going to get great cocktails. It's a long weekend. You're going to go out maybe the night before Thanksgiving. You might go out Friday night. You might go out Saturday. You're tired of turkey. Go to Tavern 180. Get a prime Wagyu steak, prime ribeye, filet mignon, great cocktails, martinis, sides, old fashions, you name it. Sip Tavern 180.
I mean, it just looks fabulous. Look at it. Good job.
And they have great desserts. They have butter cake there, just like we had at Mastro's, by the way. They do a butter cake there, and it's equally as good. So thanks again to Tavern 180 for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online show. Okay, let's close it. Headline 5, odds and ends. High school finals in the books. Millard South wins Class A. Our good friend Damon Benning had to step in as the head coach for Westside.
Coach Benning.
And did a great job in the situation they were in. It was a 13-10 game late, and then Millard South was able to pull away to win it 27-10. Omaha Scott Bennington, though, was the most entertaining game. Not necessarily high-level Division I players on the field like the A game, but it was just a really good football game.
29-26.
And it went right down to the wire.
Scott wins.
And it was a back-and-forth fight. And
did I get that score right?
The Turman brothers of Scott, Matt and Seth Turman, led the way, and they put in that new offense.
Like a spread.
They went from running like an option power offense. Barrett Liebentritt played there. They're running like that kind of offense to running like something that Lincoln Riley would run, or
right?
Not Lincoln Riley.
Well, how about Dana Holgorsen?
Yeah, it was a spread. I mean, and Seth Turman, Matt's brother, is always been a guy that likes to throw. And it worked for him. This Van Dyke, their quarterback, was outstanding. It sounds like Munson on our staff is tied to UNK. It sounds like UNK really wants the Scott quarterback.
Brian Munson.
And Lardinson from Bennington is another guy that had a great game, and I think UNK is where he's ending up as well to either wrestle or play football. So great games. Connor Booth, the Husker running back recruit, unfortunately was not 100%. Tried to played in the C2 finals, but was not the guy he was all year.
Mm-hmm. What's he got?
Tweaked his knee. Not a major injury, but one that needed some time off.
Sure.
So they lost. Norfolk Catholic, though, man, Jeff Beller, that guy just wins.
Is that 13 titles for Norfolk Catholic?
Yeah. Put it this way. They have played, there's been 50 state playoffs in history, 50, and they've played in 21 finals.
Jeez. What's the deal there?
Good
Norfolk Catholic.
Good program, good coach. And they're so well, like, their special teams, like it's for C2, it's like ridiculous. I mean,
really?
They're just so like schemed up and lined up, and
it's good coaching.
I mean, that's C2. That's the smallest level of 11-man football, and look how many kids they have out.
Pretty
for
big
football.
team.
Yeah, I mean that's bigger than a lot of Class A teams that are struggling.
You're right, Sean. That's a program right there. That's a program. Interesting.
And he's old school. He's hard. I mean, like he said after the game to me on the interview, he said that sometimes I'm a little hard on these guys, but I want to hold them accountable.
Well, how about that?
And they win, and everyone's happy. But yeah, congrats to all the teams that played in Lincoln. I got to work the sidelines for all the games and for 11-man, and it was a great experience. Recruiting news: Bear Tenney no longer committed to Nebraska.
What's that tell you?
And I think this was a mutual breakup. Nebraska, like everybody, is at a numbers crunch, but they're also kind of evolving what they do on offense. Bear Tenney is actually about 265 pounds right now.
Ooh.
And they don't really think he's going to be a fit for a tight end. They gave him the opportunity to maybe come here as an O-lineman, did not want to play O-line, was not interested in that path. So he is decommitted from Nebraska and will move on at that point. So we've seen two players in this class Nebraska kind of part ways with, Bryson Hayes and now Bear Tenney. Is
that when you say they might be going a little different direction offensively, you're talking about like a Dana Holgorsen type offense?
Sure seems that way. But
it could be a good sign, Sean.
Mac Markway is also on this roster. So they have a big bodied blocking tight end, and Eric Ingwerson could play that role. So they need more receiving threat tight ends moving forward. And then signing day is Wednesday.
Jeez,
so December 4th, a lot of things to watch. Cortez Mills, Michael Terry, Chase Lofton. I mean, I think there's a chance that they could get Mills. Terry's up in the air right now.
What would you say about Lofton?
I don't know if that's going to happen.
Oh,
sorry
about that in the live chat today. I said I had a good feeling.
Where'd you get that information from?
Just out of just osmosis.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen.
Where did you get that information?
You don't think it's happening? Did you get it from our good friend Mike?
Just be quiet. Do you think that's that? What do you think is going to happen with Lofton?
I don't know.
While we're talking,
but I felt like it needed to happen with his commitment immediately, and it didn't. And if it was going to be a flip, I felt it would have happened. Who knows? It could change. I don't have a great feel.
Mills, though, you like.
I think Mills is the one that to watch the closest.
Okay.
Michael Terry, no matter what, there's a lot of money involved there. I mean, it's a 5-star type guy. It's Texas. It's Nebraska. That's all you got to know right there.
Bam.
And then North Carolina fires Mac Brown.
Yep.
What do you make of that?
Well, he's 73. Okay, that's where it starts. 6-5. Where's it going? I mean, what do you do? If you're the AD, you're in kind of a spot there, right? Just over 500. Just came off a 20-point loss to Boston College. Hasn't been a great season. The disastrous game against JMU,
where he said he might quit.
Yeah, where are you going? I mean, so the AD just what was sort of an uncomfortable week because on Monday, I think it was Monday, early in the week, Mac said, I'll be back. I plan to be back. He said, I plan to be back. I want to be back. I plan to be back. Then the AD said, no, you're not going to be back. And that's it.
Yeah, they're a hard team to figure. I mean, Minnesota missed a field goal. They would have lost that game. It was the last second field goal early in the year. They only beat Charlotte by 18 points, and Charlotte fired that coach. But the game that you mentioned, that James Madison game, 70-50.
Right. It's embarrassing. Okay, so the job is a good one, though. It's a good ACC job. That's a job, Sean. That brand is what's stronger in the ACC overall. Duke football now. I'm not going to give you Duke. I'm not going to give you Clemson.
Oh, you're just talking football.
No, overall.
Well, Duke's brand is worldwide.
Yeah, I mean, so is North Carolina's.
Yeah.
So is North Carolina.
Because of basketball too, but
right.
I still think Florida State, you can't look at just one bad year because we deal with this in Nebraska. Oh, Nebraska's not a blue blood anymore because they have a couple bad years. Right. And Florida State, I kind of still I'm not going to dismiss Florida State yet.
But I'm not putting them over North Carolina.
Overall prestige.
Yeah.
What about
academic
What
prestige?
about Miami?
Sean, academic prestige. If North Carolina were available to the Big Ten, the Big Ten would jump on North Carolina.
The issue with North Carolina is there's so much loyalty to that basketball stuff they're tied to. They don't want to leave Duke because Duke, North Carolina, if that was taken away from America, that's a crime.
Well, would you have to take it away?
Well, would they agree to play anymore?
Right. That's the key. I don't know that you would have to take it away.
Maybe the ACC would be so upset they wouldn't allow the game or want the game.
Yeah. But anyway, what I'm telling you, it's a good job. And, the guy that you wonder about in the Big Ten is PJ Fleck. Would PJ Fleck go to North Carolina?
Is that theoretically a better job?
What do you think? Yes, babe. Babe in the woods. Yes. North Carolina's a better job than Minnesota.
What about Jamie Chatwell?
I know you're so Big Ten oriented, Sean, but yes, North Carolina's a better job than Minnesota. Chadwell's definitely a name to watch.
I've heard his name as the
100.
leader in the clubhouse.
I'd watch Barry Odom, UNLV coach, who's UNLV could be in the playoff.
I mean, they can't even pay their quarterback $100.
I like Barry Odom.
He's gruff too.
I don't know that, but those are names. All three of those are names that have been mentioned prominently. There's a lot of names being mentioned prominently. I would watch Fleck. I would really watch Fleck.
He'll angle.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about in the Big Ten, the Purdue job? I mean, that could open this weekend. If they go 1-11, Ryan Walters at 1-11 with getting blown out by a first-year Indiana staff.
Sean, here's a stat. I believe that Purdue is 129th in scoring offense and 129th in scoring defense. They don't got either. They can't do either. They can't stop anybody and they can't score.
Wasn't Walters involved in calling the plays now? And he's a defensive. He got involved, and he's a defensive coordinator.
He got involved calling the offensive plays. It's a what show. I don't know. I think is there any chance he survives?
It's the issue a lot of teams have now is this money. I mean, you're going to have to come up with $20 million annually in your budget to pay for players, and firing coaches and giving coaches $20 million this year on top of that's not easy for people to do.
No, not even for a Big Ten team like Purdue.
That's real money.
It is. I don't know what his buyout is, and I don't know what Purdue would do. I remember I reacted very strongly to that hire negatively. I think you have to go get not a 35-year-old or a 30-something coordinator to coach a Big Ten team. You don't go get like North Carolina, Andy Kotelnicki, the Penn State coordinator gets mentioned. No. Why? The one thing I don't understand, I'll never understand, is why do people just say, go get a coordinator? Just because you're a good coordinator doesn't mean you're a good head coach. It doesn't always correlate. Get a leader. I mean, get a guy that can lead.
Ed Orgeron never was a coordinator.
Right. Defensive line coach.
Sam Pittman was never a coordinator. I mean, you don't have to be a coordinator to make, like, Mickey Joseph is now a head coach at Grambling, never was a coordinator.
Right.
You don't have to, like, I think
leader.
you need to be a good leader of men,
right,
to be a head coach first and foremost.
Yeah, the Matt Rule was never really he never distinguished himself as a coordinator.
Leader,
right?
He's a great leader of men.
Yeah, and he knows football very well.
All right, Bree, let's talk games.
You better know football.
Week 14, Minnesota, Iowa. Man, that's a big game for Luke Fickell.
Minnesota, Wisconsin.
Minnesota, Wisconsin. I'm sorry,
Right.
Minnesota, Wisconsin. It's a big game for Luke Fickell in Madison. It's at 11 a.m. on Black Friday. We will be able to watch that at the hotel Friday.
It's a big game.
And then obviously our game at 6:30, Illinois, Northwestern. That's only a big game in the sense that if Nebraska were to beat Iowa and Illinois lost to Northwestern,
Then what?
there could be a scenario where the Capital One Bowl or the Citrus Bowl could take Nebraska over Illinois.
Is the Capital One Bowl and the Citrus Bowl the same thing?
Yeah, it's the Citrus Bowl, but I think the Capital One is the title.
Okay, I didn't know that. It's
I-
been so long.
but I don't know. That's a long shot, but that's something to watch.
That's
there.
definitely a long shot.
Michigan is a 20.5-point dog at Ohio State. Fresno, UCLA, meaningless game for UCLA. They're already out of the bowl picture. Penn State has a meaningless game against Maryland, who's already knocked out a bowl. Like, you think about a game like that for Maryland with a week left to go in the season. How many players have a foot out the door to the portal?
Yeah. Oh, you're right. It would only be meaningful if Penn State loses.
Even Michigan. How many players at Michigan have a foot out the door? Like, what's their December 9th look like?
Hard to know unless you're in that culture. I don't know.
I'm really interested in Notre Dame USC.
And why is that?
Because I think USC, it's at USC, could make that an interesting game.
Yeah. Okay, I should be more versed than this. Could they knock Notre Dame out of the playoff?
Possibly. It depends how the loss looks, but Notre Dame's win over A&M, and I think they've beaten Louisville, and they might have one other good win in there. But
USC's kind of a scary team, right? Kind of a scary team.
They have material.
I know Notre Dame's really good defensively, but that's strength on strength.
USC should have beat Penn State.
Should have. Yeah, if you're a Notre Dame fan, that Penn State game really gets your attention, I would think.
I would almost categorize USC as, this is kind of funny to say it this way, but they might be the best 6-5 team in the country.
Pretty good.
Like, nobody just beats them.
No, that's a good point.
Like,
they don't get hammered. They
have too many good players.
Pretty good.
Their receivers and their quarterback play and the running back.
Oh, running back's good. You've got me convinced on Marks. Marks is good. Yeah, and they have a few good, pretty good receivers. That Deuce Robinson's good. Zachariah Branch is good. They got some other guys. I just named two that I can remember. Number 10 was good. Yeah, they got some material there. They're just a little light on defense, Sean. Good secondary, just light in the front seven.
So that game has playoff implication. Purdue, Indiana. I think Indiana needs to really look good in this win against Purdue, just to solidify their chair.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of SEC snobs that don't want them in there.
Well, and there's some reasonable people too that would look at them and say, "Look, you didn't hammer Michigan 6-5. You got whomped against Ohio State. It's not just snobs. They didn't do enough."
It would have been nice to see Indiana play Penn State.
Yeah.
And that's a projected playoff matchup on some brackets.
The thing that if I were an Indiana fan, that would concern me more than anything is that quarterback that looked so good and confident against Nebraska. I didn't see that quarterback against Michigan or Ohio State. He didn't look that
I
confident.
think they're in. I mean, I put it like 90. If they win the game, it's like 98% they're in.
If they win, they should be in. Sure.
Washington, Oregon. Washington's already bowl eligible. It's at Eugene. Oregon's a big favorite there, but the one that has some meaning is Rutgers, Michigan State, because Michigan State has to win to get to 6 wins.
Okay. That's
Who
important.
do you like in that one?
Don't know enough about Michigan State.
Well, they've got that dual threat quarterback that he sliced up Iowa.
Yeah. We watched him. We watched Michigan State, Iowa a little bit at
At
Texas.
a Longhorn Steakhouse.
I called it Texas Longhorn. It's not Texas Longhorn. It's just Longhorn.
Very blue collar Home Depot parking lot steakhouse.
Very good steak, by the way.
It was a blue collar steak experience.
It was. But that's my extent of knowledge of Michigan State. I thought they looked pretty physical in that game. They're always going to be physical up front. So who would you pick?
I'm going to take Michigan State at home.
Okay.
And I don't know. Rutgers, God, they're 6-5. They easily could be an 8-9 win team. They've come short in a few games that you thought they were going to win, and they beat Minnesota. So they're a hard team to nail down. But Greg, I have a lot of respect for Greg Schiano.
Well, I have respect for guys like Schiano, Aranda, Leipold, Rule that held their teams together. When it looked like it could unravel, it looked like it was unraveling at Baylor. Aranda got it together and won 4 in a row. It looked like it was unraveling at Kansas. Lance Leipold pulls off 3 in a row. And then Matt Rule. I'd put Matt Rule in that, especially if he beats Iowa.
All right. Well, we are off to Iowa City. We're heading up Thursday night. I think we're going to see a lot of Husker fans there. I just look, tickets are very reasonable right now, like $20, $25 ticket options. I'm guessing the cold weather has scared off some people for a night game in Iowa City. But if you're looking to get up there, lots of tickets available. Check it out on all your favorite ticket sites. But we will have a post-game show.
That's right. Late one.
And we're going to be on late after the game. So join us for the fun, as we always have fun, as you guys know. And I'm sure we're going to get some interesting super chats.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just really looking forward to the game.
I'm looking forward to hearing from Mike and Ben and all the great super chats. Mike.
What's his last name?
Hawks. I mean, Hawks. Could be
put an S on it. Like, you're okay.
I mean, he could be related to Howard Hawks for all we know.
His name was Hawk that he put. He didn't put Hawk.
He might have forgot to add the S.
Just you add the S and we're fine. Mike Hawks is fine. Okay. All right. Please, Sean.
Happy Thanksgiving.
We're already in trouble.
Hope everybody has a great holiday, and we will see you back from Iowa City late night on Friday night. For more, check us out at HuskerOnline.com. For Steve Sipple, I'm Sean Callahan.